So I might go back to the first. So the group at the back, the first group you're looking at this one here, more time in scheduled meetings than in unscheduled meetings. How can you make more efficient use of that time? And the second group over here, how can you reduce or make your time at the desk more efficient? Okay, now where's our next group here? Around 6% of your time on the telephone. How can you make that more efficient? Half your working time in your own office. How can you make that more efficient? And the last group, you've got the one here, a quarter of the time in other people's office. So they're all to do with time allocations. Work out some thoughts on what you can do to make that more efficient. So I'll see how you're going after about 10 minutes, right? There's a mic there. This will save your voice, I think. This is another technique for keeping meetings short and so on, is that they have quite often what they call a talking stick, and you only can speak if you're holding that stick. So everyone else has to shut up until that person hands the stick on. That's not a bad technique either, so especially when people are fighting for the stick. Okay, please.
How is improved time management? More time in scheduled meeting than unscheduled meeting. What we found was scheduled meeting is more structured, has an agenda, things are prepared. People coming to attend those meetings are prepared. They have already set the information which they have to present and what they are going to debate on. So there is this information gathering is very, very comprehensive while attending those meetings. So and attending that, coming before time, organizing, all of that becomes an efficient startup. So that had on very good advantage looking at the whitehead on information gathering. So that could very well works with the scheduled meeting. But then looking at the unscheduled meetings, people are everywhere. Time management is an issue. People are all traveling, attending to a meeting on time. They don't make the use of the meeting again. And also on unscheduled is we don't know if the agenda is prepared well, if everything is counted, and people are holding for those meetings. So that's a disadvantage on that. And looking at the second head, emotion and gut feelings, this normally comes in both scheduled and unscheduled, as what we think from this week is why, because there will be important points of place across on facts and figures, finance, and there will be a lot of decisions to be made, and there will be a lot of discussion. So this will come during the debate or arguments, is what we think on this second head, the red head, on both scheduled and unscheduled meetings. The third one, what do you think for the scheduled meetings? So looking at the other head, that's green. There's other way of having other different ways of doing it, or creative thinking. Creative thinking means the choice of people you have in your meeting. So that helps well in scheduled meetings where you choose the right people on the right discussions you're going to do on that meeting. So that's working very well on the scheduled meeting, rather than having that point in unscheduled meeting that correct people with correct qualifications or correct experience are called in, and sometimes this doesn't really work on unscheduled meetings. So that's what we work on the third head. The other one was black critical thinking. I get my friend Ben to talk on it.
Does he want to wear the hat? He has to do the Michael Jackson moonwalk later on, okay?
Okay, what we discussed is in terms of the meetings itself, the most critical components in unscheduled meetings is that if we had say for example, if there was a breakdown or something on the plan, you immediately need people to come to it, so sometimes emotions get in the way of people's thinking, and also it's very critical to get back on time, so you have a running order to map against to cut your lag. So that component for us, critical thinking, basically comes in the unscheduled one, and under the yellow one, we thought that it works both ways because the benefits is there for both meetings.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Questions?
All right. Thank you. That's a very good use of the six, well, most of the hats there, so I congratulate you on that. And you only got a brief introduction, I mean, so well done. Anybody got any comments on what they came up with? 'Cause I mean, we've put you under the pump. We've only given you about 10 minutes to do it. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. The additional thing to think about is that in unscheduled meetings, you actually find out some important information. If you run into somebody in the street or on walking up the staircase or walking around the corridors, what they call the corridor meetings, they are very powerful meetings to find out what's really going on. So if you meet other colleagues or people who work for you, stop and have a talk to them quickly. What are your problems? How are things going? And they'll more likely tell you there than they will in any formal meeting. So quite often the unscheduled informal meetings are very powerful. That's why you see good managers walk around a lot and talk to people a lot. Everyone thinks, hey, they're wasting their time. No, they're having those one-for-ones. They're finding out things that they wouldn't find out in the more formal meetings. Okay. And there are some cultural differences. I worked in Thailand for a while. People don't turn up for meetings until the boss arrives. So there's no one in the room for the meeting, and all of a sudden the boss turns up and there's a mad rush. Everyone runs in. Other cultures, like the Western culture, you basically should be there before your boss. And so on. I'm not too sure what Fiji's is that way. But, okay, so next group, who'd like to go next? Which one did you have? You had the... 35. Yep. How'd you go? You choose how you like, how you feel comfortable.
Okay, so we were giving between 25 to 30% of their time, and that's how can we make this efficient. Now looking at that, we have sort of covered all our heads. The first one is where we have the white hat, information gathering. Now in the 25 to 30% of the time, they have to utilize it to the maximum. The best way to do that is by putting on the white hat, by organizing for quicker retrieval of information. Now this can be your systems as well as housekeeping on your desk. Either of it. For the second hat, which we have in emotions, feeling, gut feeling. Now for that, as a manager, you would be doing delegation with accountability, and this would also be development for whoever you're delegating it to. Now for the third one, it's going to be, which is creative thinking. Now for prioritization, if I'm going to look at prioritization, it's going to be both creative thinking as well as critical appraisal. Prioritization, because you're going to prioritize your work, and if you're going to prioritize your work, you will save a lot of time. Now, looking at the fifth one, we need to have breaks and stretches because it's a brain refresher for everyone. So, especially if you're using computers, which we all do, you have to have at least 1 to 2 minutes of break. That is up to 15 to 20 minutes of looking at your screen because it's a brain refresher for you. And it's going to give you, that time is going to give you opportunity to rethink of whatever problem it is. For me personally, when I am upset or when I look at an email which is really nasty, I type it, I do not send. I take a break, I come back, and then I read through it. And there is a lot of changes, and you get other ideas of thinking of whatever you have written over there. And in summary, I would say all of the things that we have discussed, it contributes towards efficiency and increasing the team productivity and morality.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Thank you. That was, again, a good presentation. Thank you. So who would like to go next? We've missed a group, have we? Or yep. Okay. Well, don't forget that's. It's like a hot potato, isn't it? I think, don't touch it. It's automatically on. It's automatically on.
We discussed on the third point on the time spent on the telephone. Unfortunately, after the discussion, actually, we end up increasing it to 60 minutes because of we are two members from reason. Okay. Anyway, the points that we discussed to reduce the time spent on the telephone, we encourage emailing rather than telephone call wherever possible. Then we also encourage chatting or texting on Skype rather than calling on the Skype.
Yeah.
Then we try to be specific about the matter that we are going to.
Yeah,
then for the telephones which are coming through the hotline, the reception is screening the port and diverting the calls to the right person and the right department. So these are the things that we.
Okay, good, good. Thank you. Any additional points from anybody? Okay, we'll keep moving on to the half your working time in the office. So that's. Is that the right one? Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. They can go first. That's okay. They can do a quarter of your time in other people's offices.
All right. Our group, we talked about spending how to be more efficient. If there's a quarter of our time in other people's office. What we found out is either we delegate to other staff who should be more productive and leading all those other issues in other people's office. Have an agenda and stick to it. Do not deviate from whatever is supposed to be discussed and keep it that way. Do not talk about the past. Ensure that whatever is going to be discussed while you're in someone else's office remains with the agenda. And do not discuss something that is beyond your control. For instance, you want to decide who is the next coach for Fiji. So those are the things we feel that will keep our time more efficient if you are to be in another person's office. And then one of the obvious ones, do not go to the other person's office. It's not important at all. Use telephone and emails. Those are the equipment that we have. And lastly, have a work plan for the day. We'll keep to it, and you'll never go to someone else's office for the day. Thank you.
Thank you. And who is going to be the coach, next coach?
Can I say something?
Oh, sorry. Yes, please. Yep.
Yeah, when we ask ourselves, why do we go to our group's office? Answer comes with, people always go there to gossip. Talk about bosses and all these partners in the work company. So don't go in our group's office, you're gossiping. What goes around comes around.
One thing that I find very useful if you're a senior manager or a manager at any level is that have on your door a statement that says, don't bring your problems, I want solutions as well. So if people just come to you with problems, they're wasting your time. And so I know one manager that says, make sure you bring solutions, is written on his door. So when people come, they just don't plonk the managers or their problems on somebody else's back. And he won't discuss problems unless they have some solutions. And that's, again, can be a big time waster with. Yep, okay. Saving the best to last, are we?
Good evening all. We discussed the issue about spending half the working time in the offices, the managers. We didn't relate it to the heads, we just discussed how best we can sort of address this issue. Our main priority was actually managers should deal with stuff that is relevant and deal it with priority, number one. Well, there's 2 points in there. And the main thing was having a sense of empowerment to your mid-level managers, so you're not stuck with all the drips and drabs that sort of filter through. That could be screened by a PA or your assistant manager or your registry, whatever it is. You don't want the manager to be opening up telephone bills in his office, so just to get him around that. That also requires a decentralizing of the management, of course, to all levels of the management. Yesterday we discovered a speech by Mr. Ram of an open door policy. Since you're sitting there half the day, so I suppose you could have people walking in there, not as they please, but with the relevant issues which they can come and discuss with the manager. So those are the things we discussed in the group. Thank you.
Yeah, you've got to be careful of the open door policy because you get a lot of people come in. I think you should say at certain times you have an open door policy. Maybe it's from 11 till 12 or something like that, or 3 to 4. Not all day, because otherwise you're going to be disrupted all the time. That would be my suggestion, and so on. I know a few of my clients say, Bill, I get all these interruptions. And they say, well, okay, how long do you need to be on your own to do your work before you get the interruptions? They say 3 or 4 hours. Okay, tell people if you start at 8 o'clock, from 11 o'clock onwards, you're available for any discussions, unless it's a life and death matter and so on. So all these, I mean, we could spend hours talking about all these different techniques that you've brought up and additional ones. There's a few more written up in the background notes for you there and so on. But I'm just going to go through, I've done bad time management, so there's a few other things I wanted to expose you to. So I'll just go through these PowerPoints pretty quick at a Mickey Mouse speech to give you a bit of an idea. So thank you very much for those presentations. And some good points came out, which, if we can, we'll try and return to at some stage. Okay, so we went through all that. You've talked a bit about prioritising. This is an A, B, C, D way of doing it. And you can actually prioritise, obviously the A's are the very important ones, into A1s, A2s, A3s if you like, and they're the ones. So that's a system. If you've got coming to work or planning your day, you can say, okay, let's prioritise what I've got to do today on the following headings. Bang, bang, bang. I'll make sure you get a copy of these PowerPoints, but also it's in the handout notes. Or you can do it as a quadrant under urgent, not urgent. Where are we? Yep. Urgent, not urgent. Vital, important, not vital. And that helps you prioritise your tasks. That's another way you can do it. And that's an example of it there, of filling in those boxes. Helps you and guides you and helps you with your thinking. A bit on goal setting, because goal setting is linked very much with prioritising, delegating, linked with time management. That's important. So there's two focuses of goal setting. One is a focus on the outcome and then how the outcome is achieved, in other words, your behaviours. And we tend to neglect the bottom one. We tend to go more for the outcomes and not behaviours. That's SMARTER, and each of those stands for help you with your goal setting. Is it specific, measurable, can you achieve it, it's attainable, realistic, targeted, you've got a time limit on it. I'm much more, the A worries me a bit because I'm much more for challenging targets that you have to do things differently. It's not easy. So sometimes extending them, and then it's required for the organisation. So that's one you can use to look at if you get into goals. Goal setting is very powerful. I use it a lot with our family, with our sons, etc. They agree to the goals and they get rewarded for achieving the goals too. So general comment, goal setting is about performance, you're aligning with the organisation's objectives. Obviously you've got short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. You use the short and medium term to help you get your long-term goals. Focus on decision-making helps with prioritisation. Make sure they're written and make sure people know about them, because that then puts additional pressure on you, peer group pressure. Other people saying, well, you set that goal, what's happened? Did you achieve it? So make sure they're written. It's a way of reinforcing it, and make sure your colleagues know about it so they will help you keep to it. Yep. And learn to say no. That's one of the things that you, as you go up the management tree, you've got to learn to say to people no and delegate. If somebody else can do it, even though they mightn't do it as well as you, give it to them to do. Otherwise, you're going to weigh yourself down with too much work. Now, this is one. We don't have time to do this tool, and I notice we're just a fraction over time. But the simple question to really be very critical about, if you're in the public sector, if you're doing something, you say, would my client pay for this? And if the answer is no, well, why are you doing it? Okay, there might be some legal requirements, but if you start working on that type of mindset even in the corporate world, it really makes you decide what's important or not. Obviously a bit harder in the private or not-for-profit sector, so you can use, is it adding value, what I'm doing? Because a lot of the work you're doing, You people would write reports, a lot of reports. How do you check whether reports are important? You might spend a week yourself writing a report, have other staff helping you. How do you check if a report's important? You write it, but don't send it. If they scream very quickly, obviously it's important, and you can give it to them straight away. If they don't, you find out maybe it's just filed away every time. So if you want to, and you spend a lot of time writing reports, so that's a great way of checking whether your reports are read. So this again is a tool which is in the handout notes and also in the book we're talking about. And that's a way of looking at. I did this myself as a senior manager, and senior managers are the great wasters of time, much more than anybody else. They're doing work that's not productive. They're going to too many meetings, etc., etc. And most senior managers waste about half their time. And what I do normally is pull people's diaries out for the last 2 weeks, get them to analyse on definitions of work and where they allocate, and you'll find that most people use their time very inefficiently. And this is, again, another way of making you think a bit differently. So I've gone through that Mickey Mouse speed. It's time for a glucose break for your brain and a bit of water, etc. So let's have I think it's a 15-minute break, or is it a bit longer? How long? 15, is it? Okay. Right, that was whatever the break is. And I think everything's here for you to choose from, and we'll start again on a different topic.